healthcare plan in your company, and that is the retirement plan. And as Prince mentioned, I'm the regional vice president for Mutual of America's South Florida region. And of course, Debbie Rogers, my colleague, is the vice president of our field consulting services. So, first off, it's hard to thank Romeo and the PayMaster team enough, for including us in this symposium. As I mentioned, I'd like to introduce some ideas that hopefully appeal to those of you that have a retirement plan in place, and perhaps introduce some ideas on how to evaluate going about implementing a retirement plan. As I mentioned, it's as important as the healthcare plan. This conversation is actually especially timely because there was new legislation that was supposed to take effect earlier this year in April. It has since been shelved, but there was a lot of lingo in the news about fiduciary responsibility and retirement benefits plans. So, I wanted to share some key statistics with you about how important it is for your employees to be retirement ready. The working households, regular working households today with a 401k balance was only $135,000 in 2016. From that $135,000, because we're all living longer, that only provides about $600 a month in retirement savings. And can anyone guess what the average Social Security check is for anyone getting a Social Security benefit? 1,200. Right, close. Yeah, about $1,200 per month. So, the retirement plan is something that's, it's a very current thing that the government is looking at. There's a lot of regulations going in and around it, and so we're here to urge everybody to take a look at their current offering. Recently, actually, not too long ago, there was legislation was passed mandating employers to offer some sort of employee retirement plan. Those states are California and Illinois and Maryland, but there are many variations of a retirement plan product, and I'm going to discuss that a little later on. Again, historically, many employers evaluate their benefit program with a deep concentration in the healthcare costs and the healthcare plan they provide. But again, I hope that Debbie and I can show that this is something that also should be carefully looked at as well. With that in mind, Debbie and I will be discussing some key points that will assist you in taking a holistic approach at your retirement plan. We'll be discussing the trends, the features, the different options that are available, what your objective is as the employer. Of course, costs is a big component in that, and the responsibilities that you would take on when you offer a retirement plan. As we move into our presentation, keep in mind that if you have any questions, if you'd like to contact us, our information is attached to that comprehensive services brochure that's included in your packet. But whether or not just fulfilling your fiduciary obligation to take a look at your current offering, or if you are interested in implementing one, we can certainly serve as your resource. So, historically, people have identified the retirement plan as a pension plan or what's called a defined benefit plan. That was the main source of retirement savings plan some years ago. The defined benefit plans that we have all heard about in the news that are very costly, and a lot of them are no longer in existence or have since been frozen. It wasn't uncommon then for someone to work 30 years and have in place a pension plan that they didn't have to actively contribute to, and your employer would be there till the end and fund your retirement. That's no longer the case. In the 1990s, what ended up happening, because a lot of employers couldn't handle the cost, the defined contribution plans came into place. And basically what they did is that they shifted more of the responsibility of saving from the employer to the employee. And now the employees were the ones that were in charge of making the investment decisions. They were the ones in charge of deciding their deferral rates. And they were the ones in charge with, keeping up with inflation, with the returns. The Department of Labor is the government agency that regulates these benefit plans. And they wanted to encourage more education because people now, again, were taking on that responsibility. They're controlling their retirement savings. The employer is also known as the plan sponsor, and the fiduciary to the plan had to offer education opportunities for these employees to learn how to go about making it sound investment decisions. And these educators also help the employer outsource their fiduciary responsibility because they were, putting more of the onus on the employee. So with the new shift to employees bearing the responsibility to build up their savings, legislation was enacted to help with the designated Roth contribution. That was introduced somewhere late in the 90s and became more prevalent in the early 2000s. And that enabled younger employees to avoid taxation on their account balance after many years of savings into the plan. So in essence, what it did was it afforded them the opportunity to pay taxes slowly on a payroll by payroll basis, build up their account balance, because that's something that the government is concerned about, and then have a tax-free account once they retire. The rollover provision was also a newer benefit that employers adopted, and with more sophisticated investment strategies, people were introduced to different investment experiences and investment options in the retirement plan. So technology, as we just saw with PayMaster, has changed a lot of the landscape in the employee benefit realm. The concerns about saving rates by families and employers in regard to their employees have moved the needle to a more automated process. And with the IRS and DOL overlooking these, they provided guidelines about automatic enrollment, online enrollment, and what I hope some of you have in place now, which is payroll integration, where we just saw your payroll provider can integrate with your retirement plan provider to allow for streamlined administration. I previously touched on legislation that's mandating employers now to offer some version of a retirement savings plan. The automatic enrollment feature is prevalent in the healthcare program, but has not really taken such a huge popularity in the retirement savings plan. But now we're seeing, because we are in the industry, we're seeing a lot more employers adopting this provision. They encourage participation in the retirement plan, and instead of the employer having to chase people to opt into the retirement plan, it's exactly as it occurs with the healthcare plan. People have to opt out instead of opting in. And we've seen participation rates obviously increase, and there are some statistics that I'd like to share with you in regards to that. In the 2017 plan benchmarking report, 41.7% of employers offering a 401k or a 403b plan have made the automatic enrollment feature a mandate. Of those that offer it, almost 40% make the default deferral rate percentage 3% of an employee's salary. So, when someone is, contributing 3% of their compensation into a plan, they have the option of opting out at any time. But on a national level, the opt-out rate for an automatic enrollment provision is less than 12%. So it's a real solution to encourage more participation in the plan. The Qualified Default Investment Alternative, or the QDIA, has also come back into light with the automatic enrollment provision. The Department of Labor has issued guidance on what a QDIA investment are appropriate. Whereas many years ago, QDIAs used to be the stable value fund or an interest accumulation fund. The DOL has taken a look and came back and said, perhaps that's not the right investment option for a young 25-year-old to be in. So again, with the investment of technology and with more sophisticated investment options, many of you may be familiar with the target retirement date funds that are more age appropriate, and that's deemed a more qualified default investment alternative. Those that have adopted the automatic enrollment provision, 34.5% of employers use those target retirement date funds as the default investment alternative because it is age appropriate. We just saw in the PayMaster presentation, online enrollment. That's something that employees come to expect now. When onboarding new employees, online enrollment, and again, into the healthcare plan and into the company, as well as into the retirement plan, is something that's expected. It allows employees to self-enroll at any time, once they're eligible to be in the plan. The remitting of contributions into the plan as well has become a lot easier and more streamlined with the payroll integration that we've seen taking place in the industry. So in addition to the functionalities of payroll integration, in remitting the contributions, it also helped with loan remittances, automated communications like we just saw. It helps with reporting requirements and also helps with tracking eligibility into your retirement plan. This also helps many employers fulfill their key fiduciary responsibility of timely remittance of contributions into the employee's account. So if you have a current retirement plan that isn't linking up with PayMaster in terms of remitting the contributions, you might want to take a look at that. Perhaps that's a functionality that is available. I touched earlier on the many investment options that or many plan options that are available to employers who are thinking about adopting a retirement plan. When looking at your current offerings and when thinking about effectuating a retirement plan, knowing the variety that's available is something that is very important. There are profit sharing plans, there are money purchase plans, there are easy IRA plans, there's 401k plans, there's safe harbor plans, there's a variety of different plan designs and plan provisions that may suit your needs. One of the questions I'm often asked regularly is how small does the company have to be in order to implement a retirement plan? Well, again, there are solutions for everybody. If it's a two-person startup, to a self-employed doctor, to a company that has 500 people. There's, depending on your goals, there's a variety of different plan design options. The SEP, or the Simplified Employer Pension Plan, or what they call now the Easy IRA, are the most commonly used solutions for small groups. Companies who want to offer something but can't necessarily make a contribution on behalf of their employees would use these kinds of solutions where you can have payroll deduct IRA that employees may contribute into their own individual retirement account. Most of the times there's no filing requirements for that, and again, it all goes through payroll, so the employees don't get a hold of that money. It's directly remitted into their account under their IRA. So when you're exploring these options in terms of plan design, you must take a consultative approach that ensures that you're answering all of these questions listed here. What's your goal in having a retirement plan? Are you looking for retention purposes? Are you looking for recruitment? Because as we know, a lot of, there was a discussion about millennials earlier. This has come to be standard practice to offer a retirement benefit plan. Do you want to reward employees, and if so, how is your contribution structured? Do you want to incentivize your key employees, your key executives? There's what's called top hat plans and certain other plans that can be implemented. If you're a nonprofit organization, you have a 457B non-governmental plan that can be implemented. So depending on your objectives, again, you have to take a look at, what you want to offer, how can you afford to offer what you want to offer, and then answer the questions here to see what the best plan design would be. So, drilling down on, when we go into meetings and we drill down on where people have the most trouble, the goals mentioned previously are where employers and executives want to see outcomes. So these outcomes will help you evaluate if your plan design that you have chosen previously is working for you and your employees. We have employers that have issues with participation rates. We have employers that have issues with fund performance or the amount of loans their participant is taking out. So each employer is facing a different challenge, and the executives from these organizations want some solutions in regards to that. So to deliver a successful retirement plan to your employees, the company you work with is crucial in that, because if they provide expertise in plan design and plan operation, this can make your life a lot easier. It can be intimidating in many ways, but building a relationship with a provider can have a real impact on streamlining the approach for the retirement plan. A typical retirement plan has 3 pillars, I would say. You have a broker that serves as the middleman in terms of bringing to you a third-party administrator and an investment provider. So you have to make sure that the people that are charged with these tasks and are usually getting paid for these services are providing what they say they will. The third-party administrator, as many of you know, handles the administrative portion of the plan. There's an investment provider that provides the investment alternatives within the retirement plan. And then there's the broker who's provides the education to the employees and oversees some aspects of the plan. So when working with a provider, you want to ask yourself, do they specialize in retirement plans? Do they know how to keep me compliant? What kind of expertise in investments do they have? Do they provide different diverse investment strategies and styles? Are they offering fiduciary protection? What kind of education and support will I be getting both on an employee level and an employer level? And of course, is it a cost-effective provider? These are questions that you should be asking. Again, even if you're offering a current plan or thinking about implementing one, some of these things should come into your decision-making process. As I mentioned before, there's different variations on how to structure a retirement plan. Depending on your current employer, do you have many seasonal or part-time workers? They may not be eligible for the plan. Are you a school that has a summertime counselors program that won't be employed and make the hours of service that you need? If you have a lot of turnover during the first few years of employment, you may want to consider a longer vesting schedule. There are many people in your company that are highly compensated employees. You may want to think about a safe harbor plan. You want to incentivize more savings for your employees. Again, you may want to think about a match. Is your company's pay structure maybe not as competitive as others? You may want to institute what's called a base contribution or a non-elective contribution. Does your company's income vary from year to year and you can't afford to commit a consistent match or a base? You may want to consider a discretionary contribution. Is your company failing non-discrimination testing? Again, you may want to consider automatic enrollment. So there's a lot of different organizational questions you should be asking in order to come up with a plan design that meets your plan objectives. And now we come down to the nitty-gritty. Everyone, of course, wants to know how much this is all going to cost. The participants have a hand in the cost, and the employer as well. The Department of Labor has also issued guidance on fees. They've specifically focused, though, on what's called fee reasonableness. They have said that a plan sponsor's responsibility is to ensure that the costs of operating the plan are reasonable compared to the value being received. That's an important distinction. You're not always going to get the lowest cost provider. And if you are, as we all know, you get what you pay for. The key takeaway is to weigh what value they bring to you and to your employees. We've touched on the three pillars of what makes up a retirement plan. The broker, who may be charging a commission or a wrap charge. Are they delivering the service that they promised they would in terms of education and looking out for other providers that may provide better value? The third-party administrator that you may be using may bill you, the employer, on a quarterly basis as a base fee plus additional fees for all other employees. Are they keeping you in compliance? The investment provider charges a fee in terms of the fund expense fee to your participants typically. Is that netted out of their accounts? Is the performance in line with what they say they would deliver? So in this slide, there's, we've listed the fees associated with the retirement plans. Again, there are administration fees that may be charged by the TPA. If you want to make a change to your retirement plan, you may have a $500 fee just to do that. If you want to get a withdrawal from your retirement plan, that could be a $65 fee just to get your money back. So there's a lot of different fees that are ad hoc fees depending on which provider you choose. So there's a lot to think about when looking at another provider. Some providers also charge for value-added services, such as financial consulting services, or again, integrating with PayMaster for the retirement plan. They may charge for statements that they're providing you, and even for education services. I recently went to an employer who we've been consulting with, and we were invited to look into their retirement plan. And it turns out that the HR director there has been there for about 2 years, and they're with a very well-known company in terms of the retirement plan, and she's never seen or received any material in regards to her retirement plan in terms of education. So she finally got on the 800 line, which was her only means of contacting her provider. She got on the 800 line and asked for someone to come out, and they told her without hesitation, if you want someone on site, that's no problem, but that'll cost $1,000. And that's real, just depending on what provider you choose. So, I urge you to definitely do your homework. There's a lot of providers out there that are wonderful and do their job and deliver their service wonderfully, and there's some that don't. So, if you are looking into perhaps, performing a plan review, this is something that I would strongly urge you to do. Another cost aspect to think about as the employer is how the match or the base contribution is going to affect your bottom line. These costs ought to be included in your budget for the next year. And in addition to that, if your company has over 100 employees, eligible employees I should say, there may be audit costs associated with the retirement plan. And these costs can range between $6,000 to $10,000. So again, these are costs that you have to budget for. The investment and the fund management fees are also very important when you're looking at the cost of the plan. These costs aren't what I like to call tangible. These are not costs that you're shelling out cash from your wallet, but they are being deducted from your participants' accounts. So those should be looked at. when you see your performance on your statement at the end of the quarter, the investment fees are already netted out of those returns. So it's important for you as the participant, as the employer, to look at your fee disclosure that you receive annually to make sure these fees are not unreasonable. So again, I just mentioned hard dollar costs, out-of-pocket costs that make it invoiced to the organization. Audit costs can be quite costly, as I said, and there are guidelines which organizations ought to audit and in what circumstances, but the cost can vary quite drastically. I've seen, in my time as a consultant, I've seen the costs vary from, I said, $6,000 to $10,000 and beyond. So before you choose a provider to do your audit, again, I would check out the marketplace and see if someone is perhaps more cost effective. The investment costs that we just spoke about in terms of the investments available in your plan to each participant may include a commission charged by the broker. The broker that you're employing is getting paid as a percentage of plan assets typically. So make sure that if you are working with a broker, they're fulfilling their end of the bargain, and the fact that they're charging a commission is fine, but are they offering what they said they would? And another cost of the organization that we don't often talk about is the cost of human resource capital and how much time is spent on the administration of the plan. Do your service provider alleviate the stress, or are they adding to it? Is this partnership that you believe you're getting what you're paying for? The Department of Labor issued guidance on these fees as well. They said that the key feature, again, is not that your fees are just low, but that your fees are low and reasonable for the services you are receiving. So if you're paying a very low fee, but the cost is high in terms of the amount your employees are spending on the retirement plan, you may want to look at other options. We've devoted 3 slides to costs, so I'm just saying, this is a very prevalent topic. In terms of cost, again, back in 2011, the Department of Labor required that each service provider issue an annual fee disclosure. It would provide the costs and services that each provider offers. It was meant to educate the participants and to ensure that everyone was aware of the costs associated with the retirement plan. Unfortunately, what they didn't do is that the Department of Labor did not standardize the fee disclosure. So what ends up happening is that every provider has a different fee disclosure, and they can be as transparent or have as little transparency as they choose. So when you are looking at comparing apples to apples and comparing providers, there could be an instance where you might want to seek out a consultant just to take a look at comparing the same things, because it's not been standardized. Okay, so again, these are some of the other fees that are associated with retirement plans, some of the things you should think about when reviewing or implementing a new startup plan. The investment menu in a retirement plan is meant to provide participants with an array of choices for the funds and to help employees meet their retirement plan objectives. And as we know, each employee has a different time horizon, they have a different risk tolerance, and they have a different level of sophistication. So a diversified investment menu helps the employer, the plan sponsor, meet the fiduciary obligation that they have to their employees. And before adding an investment fund to the investment menu, there's important criteria that should be followed. You want to look at the overall health of the management firms that you're choosing. You want the fund's investment process and depth of portfolio management and research teams should also be looked at. You want to have a sound investment philosophy. You want to make sure the investment management fees are in line with the marketplace. And you want to look at whether the fund is appropriate for long-term investment. Again, in a retirement plan, you're not looking for commodities or assets that have, that have a lot of risk in them. This is a long-term proposition, so you want to have things in place that are appropriate for a retirement plan. So as long as you, the employer, is offering the sound investment menu and has a sound monitoring process in place to review the funds, the Department of Labor deems you to be fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility, or at least one of them. So again, always be mindful that for your participants, the fund offerings your company makes available should be suitable for participants at all levels of sophistication, time horizons, and risk tolerances. This is your job as a fiduciary. Now what I'll do is I will turn it over to my partner, Ms. Debbie Rogers. She's our Vice President of our Field Consulting Services, and she'll discuss some of the responsibilities for the retirement plan administration. So please welcome Debbie.
Quick announcement before Debbie gets on. We are giving away some cool gadgets. If you stay and fill out the survey. So everybody should have a survey. If you don't, raise your hand and make sure you right there, two, three.
We have them here.
You got them? Okay. All right. So just make sure you fill out the survey, and I'm gonna do a drawing toward the end. All right. It's Debbie Rogers.
No pressure to be good to get to stay here, right? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to speak to you today about the plan administration responsibilities. I understand that this is really super exciting stuff, so just bear with me. It's good. It is important. I just want to briefly give you a sense of the items that you need to be aware of when you're considering setting up a retirement plan. And I will be quick because I'm a New Yorker and I don't want to stand in the way of your drawing here. What you need to do today is to understand your responsibilities as a plan administrator. The plan sponsor is the organization that sponsors the retirement plan. It's generally the employer of all the participants in the plan. In most cases, the plan administrator is the same as the plan sponsor. You'll generally hear these terms used interchangeably. What do you need as the plan administrator to successfully administer your plan? Some of the duties include interpreting plan terms such as vesting and service periods. Other items could be approving hardships or loans. You need to decide who within your organization is going to do what functions as the administrator of the plan. What does your service provider handle with the retirement plan? Who's going to meet with the service provider and ensure that these functions are documented as completed, and who's going to monitor that as part of their responsibility to ensure that they get completed. I have an example of a plan administrator's guide with me today for a 403B thrift plan. It's a general guide and it runs 18 chapters long. So that should give you a sense of the responsibilities the plan administrator has to ensure that the plan is compliant and maintained. Staff training. Typically, your human resources department, your finance department, your payroll department are all involved in the processing with the retirement plan. Having the training for each of these individuals or departments to help with the management of the retirement plan is key. In addition, you can have staff turnover, which is going to impact your retirement plan unless there's continuity in that training. You need to pursue opportunities to streamline your administration of your retirement plan. This is an ongoing process. Plan design is one area which we briefly spoke about, Amy did, that can help you with the administration of the plan. For example, when changing the plan design to match the budget considerations, you want to understand what those changes will do to impact the administration of the plan because there is a cost factor. For example, if you have a burdensome eligibility requirement on your plan, and some of them are very complex for a variety of reasons, and those reasons may not continue to be necessary, You can have an analysis done to determine if it continues to be necessary and what that feature offers versus the administration that it takes to continue to keep that feature in your plan. With technology, and we heard some really good things that are happening in PayMaster today, for the technology, continue to improve all these processing functions. Certainly we're all aware that the technology will continue to reduce expenses and improve the quality on a lot of these administrative functions. Some examples are payroll integration. Paymasters can work with you with your retirement plan to merge those two functions together, automate it, and take that burden away from you. The other thing is online enrollment. You heard about online enrollment with your payroll. I'm sure you're all aware of it with your health insurance. And obviously with the retirement plan, that's a function that's available. You check with your service provider to see if they offer it. And with your service provider, that's what you need to do, to check with them to see what technology they can offer to you to help you streamline the administration of the plan, and obviously what are the costs for these services. The plan design and cost management. As I mentioned, the plan design can offer relief from some of these administrative functions. However, there may be charges for these plan changes. Some service providers charge every time you amend your plan. If the change that you're putting in place requires that, you need to be aware of these charges. In addition, the ongoing administration of your plan may require a number of plan administrators throughout the history of your retirement plan in keeping in sync with the requirements of your business. So as your business changes, your retirement plan needs to change with it. So you need to keep that in your mind as you're moving forward. Plan documents, adoption agreements, summary plan descriptions are all required for most plans. And the preparation and the distribution is part of the process with those documents. Again, you need to determine what kind of support you can get from your service provider. Are they giving you a schedule of when these documents need to be delivered? And are they helping you to ensure compliance by getting them to the right people at the right time? In addition, what costs are being associated with any services that they're providing for you? Regulatory compliance services. There are regulatory updates. As the legislation changes affecting the retirement plan, your plan needs to be modified or amended to support those changes. And you'll need to find out again from your service provider what they're doing to support you with that, what fees are associated with it. Reporting. There's lots of reporting, and all of you involved with payroll have a little bit of a clue about reporting. Just for example, there's Form 5500, there's 8955 SSA, there's testing that needs to be done with the retirement plan. These reporting functions are or can be supported by your service provider. You'll need to again check with them, find out what the costs are and how they're going to support you. So for example, for Form 5500, a lot of vendors will provide a signature ready copy of the Form 5500. Makes it a lot easier than having to go onto the Department of Labor website. Also, the NDT testing. What's going to happen if you fail the NDT testing? Who's going to evaluate that going forward to find out why you failed and what remedies should be put in place to correct those failures? Loan administration and benefit payments. Loan administration, you need to find out from your service provider what the fees are, who's going to do the actual administration of the loan. Depending on what the costs are, this may or may not be a feature that you want on your plan. You may have it, you may want to take it off, you may want to add it. Depends on what your objective is with the loan feature. Benefit payments. You know, we all hope to be lucky enough to reach retirement and have a happy and healthy retirement, along with a financially secure retirement. A good retirement plan can offer that to your employees. But who will administrate this feature? This is an area that really should be supported by your service provider. These folks are no longer working with you actively. They've reached the pinnacle. They're at retirement. So you need to determine what service you're going to get from your provider on that, and again, what the cost will be for that. Then there are the audit requirements. Again, as business owners and operators, I'm sure you're all familiar with the audit process. All aspects of your business are impacted by it. What the auditors are looking for specifically with your retirement plan are things like salary deferral requests. So if your employees are having money taken out of their paycheck, your auditors are going to be looking at that process to see if it's being handled timely and correctly. There are things, as we mentioned, technology that can help support that. Online enrollment is one of them. It will track for you, show proof that you have offered the retirement plan to your employee, that you have taken out the amount that they have asked for, and all of that's electronically documented in the system. It also obviously gives them the option to opt out of the retirement plan as well. The auditors will also be looking at the timeliness of the remittance, the contributions to the employee's retirement account. There are very strict regulations on this, and I'm sure each of you can appreciate when money's coming out of your paycheck, you want it to go where it needs to go as quickly as possible. So with that, one of the things that we mentioned earlier is technology, and that technology is the payroll integration that moves that money very quickly and very effectively from your payroll process to your retirement account. If you have a growing organization, your audit could be, you could need another audit. And as Amy mentioned earlier, those audits are significant. They can run up to 10,000. But again, with the good service provider, you can look at the plan design and see what can be done to assist with that. There are also, as you all know, I mean, you're all business owners and operators here. Retirement plans are highly regulated, just like every other benefit that you're offering to your employees. There are all kinds of aspects of the rules and the guidelines and the time frames, keeping up with current legislation that you all know that you need to do. In particular, the IRS and the Department of Labor are some of the entities that are looking at the retirement plan and putting those legislations in place. And boy, do they love their notices. For many of the plans, the list can be really, really long of notices that are required to your employees or your eligible participants in the plan. Just a quick sampling is the fee disclosures, which were mentioned earlier, annual universal availability, and safe harbor. And you'll need to find out who's going to be responsible for those notices, who's going to make them, who's going to distribute them, who's going to ensure that they are getting to the right people at the right time. These are questions for your service provider, and as an administrator of the plan, these decisions have to be made. Each plan has different requirements and notices. For example, if you're a governmental entity, it's completely different than a non-governmental entity. So these are just quick things that you need to be aware of. As mentioned earlier, there's a ton of different retirements, products, and there's the Simple IRA, which is a very easy plan, but even that requires annual notices to your employees. So you need to conduct an annual compliance plan review meeting with your service provider. I really can't underscore enough how important this is if you have an active retirement plan or if you're considering a retirement plan. As a plan sponsor or an administrator, you have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure the plan has the varied, well-performing investment choices, and this annual meeting should provide you with that updated information for the plan. There's a section in the code 404C, you really want to know, has a number of requirements including regularly scheduled employee meetings. And the reason for that is these days the plans are participant directed. So anyone familiar with the 401k plan, for example, they give you a list of investment options and you have to decide where you want to invest your funds. But your employer does have a responsibility to give you some education on those investment choices. That's something that you should be looking for from your service provider on how are they going to support you with that. And just to note, this is investment education, not investment advice. And I hear routinely from the human resources folks that I work with that they're constantly asked from their employees, what fund should I invest in? And that's not something that they should be giving advice on. Okay, so, you'll wanna check with your service provider to see how, when, and when these administrative meetings can be handled for your employees. And most importantly, you wanna find out if there's a fee for it. As Amy mentioned earlier, some service providers will charge you for that service. Periodically reviewing the plan design and cost is the key administrative responsibility, and it should be part of your annual benefit review package. An annual audit requirements are a costly part of the plan administration, and as it grows, you need to be required to understand what all of these costs are doing to your retirement plan. Who has the oversight? Who is the fiduciary? As part of the overall plan administration, you may determine that it's a committee, your senior leadership team, board members, who's gonna have the responsibility to ensure that the fiduciary oversight is being done. You can create an investment policy statement which can help with that oversight and sort of gets everybody on board with the same objective. The bottom line here is the process is critical. As with all of your business functions, you need to maintain a consistent and regular review process, and good record keeping is key. The administration of any benefit, as all of you business owners and operators know, makes you aware of how important it is to ensure effective administration on all of the benefits that you offer to your employees, because they are the key value that you have in your business. For me, the takeaway is the retirement plan benefit. You offer your employee a chance to save tax deferred for retirement. And if available, you can add the added benefit of a match on that plan, or maybe even better still, a profit sharing component. Everyone dreams of a happy and financial secure retirement. And with a properly administrated retirement plan, it can be possible. Thank you all very much.